Welcome back, and we're still on the Benue killings. We're going to be looking at the Benue killings and President's visit, a review with Honorable Irene Awunah, EK. She's an activist and development consultant joining us via Zoom this morning. Good morning, Irene. All right, thank you so much. Now we're looking at the president's visit to Benue State, and he has come and he has gone. So what exactly are the outcomes of his visit in the States?
Okay, first and foremost, thank you very much for having me this morning. The president's visit, it's very commendable. First and foremost, I must appreciate him for his magnanimous disposition, because Benue has been like a childless child in Nigeria since we've been facing this crisis his visit first and foremost gave us hope, and the fact that he didn't just come alone, he came with the service chiefs and other heads of security apparatus like the DSS and the NIA. It now shows that there's going to be harmony in investigation and how the security apparatus are going to deal with this issue head on. But then apart from the president's presence in Benue, it also gave the Benue citizens the direction of what next to do. Like the local government chairmen now know that they have to sit up, because the president didn't just come with this, but he also called out certain people, to stand up to their responsibilities, which is what he's expected to do at his level as the overall commander-in-chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, whose core responsibility is to ensure that our lives and properties are safe and guided, and we do not have to be running helter-skelter in our ancestral homes away from masqueraded Fulani killers who come not to contest with land, but come with the intention to kill, displace, and occupy land. After he left, some other visits has been made. Yesterday, the SGF was in Utupo to meet with traditional rulers. This was actually one of the things that the president had asked that should be done immediately, the peace committee and all of that. But what do we really think that the president's visit should give to us as Benue citizens who have been displaced for over 10 years? We are hoping that after the presidents have gone, he won't just leave us with his statements. We will see action, intentional and decisive action by security apparatus. We will see arrest. I want to say emphatically here that it is not that arrest has never been made. Fortunately or unfortunately, most of the time, if these people are arrested and they are handed over to the police, they are released. I can remember on several occasions where the reports were made that certain people were arrested after such killings, and at the end of the day, we never saw anybody being charged to courts. We never saw any conviction. And of course, when you look at things like this, people don't have hope anymore. Until we start getting convictions, we start getting these people being paraded the same way other criminals are being paraded. And they are named what they are, instead of trying to present them names that they are not. IDPs and people who have lost loved ones will start getting closure. There is a lot of a humanitarian crisis left behind in Benue as we speak now. We had over 30-something IDP camps before this crisis. I want to say now that the humanitarian crisis has escalated beyond what Benue citizens and the Benue people can contend with. I don't know what the state emergency management body is doing right now, but at the camps, there's the camp, the IDPs are already staging hunger protests. So Nigerians, good meaning Nigerians have been giving donations already. I know that NEMA also brought certain things, items to the states. So it's an opportunity now to call on the state emergency management to please stand up to their responsibilities. It is okay that civil society organizations and individuals are reaching out to those at the camp, but it's the sole responsibility of SEMA to ensure that whatever they have in their stores should be brought out for these people to eat. Let us not escape beyond the crisis of and the agony of losing loved ones and the trauma they are going through. Let us not allow them to go through hunger again. Most of these people were farmers. There are people who, some of them are traders. Yerwata is an ancient town where trade have been going on for several decades. So please, let us not make these people get more depressed and get more inhuman, lose their humanity. They are our citizens, they are our brothers, they are our sisters. Some families were wiped off, only like 2 individuals or 1 person was left in such, families. It's unfortunate that after a long time, we are still here talking about issues post killings in Benue. Some of us felt that at this moment, after we had a law in place, the implementation of that law, the anti-open grazing prohibition law, would have been implemented in such a way that this whole crisis will come to an end, if not to the barest minimum. But unfortunately, up till now, we still have, a large land that is on police in the state. I want to also say that, correct an impression that these people come in, kill, and go out. No, they are in the forest. They are within Benue State. They come in mass and find ways and settle in those places that they have displaced people. So they move from those places that they have displaced people to kill in other places that they've not been able to displace people yet. So those places that people have been displaced, in places like Benue West, Makurdi local government, Guma local government, some parts of Buruku, Logo, they should make sure that those places are reclaimed. Once those places are reclaimed, these people will have no space within Benue State and they will move out. Then our borders have to be manned. There's a large land. Benue has vast lands that is on police, especially for the local governments that are the bank of the river Benue. We need to have speedboats. We need to have a lot of manning of our borders, especially at the river bank.
All right, and you mentioned, wanting to see, reports of arrests being made and the perpetrators of these heinous acts being, caught. And you also spoke about the meetings that have already, started taking place. Now, do you think that those meetings would in any way yield any result in terms of having action being taken in terms of arresting or fishing out these people that are committing these crimes?
Absolutely. Security is the business of everyone, irrespective of the fact that some people are trained. Peace building and reconciliation requires every stakeholders in the room. And this is also an opportunity for me to say that women are actually the first line victims when it comes to crisis of this nature. You can see that it also does not just create a vacuum of leadership in the homes where men are being killed. Women now are forced to take up leadership positions in the home front. And so they also suffer more because some of them lose livelihood. Most of them in the camps now, as we speak, do not have livelihoods. Some of them who were businesswomen have no livelihood anymore. And so they should also be considered in the room when such initiatives are are being put on the table. Meetings will help, especially with traditional rulers. They are the gatekeepers at the grassroots where most of these crises take place. In conjunction with the local government chairmen, of course, in Benue, we have all the local governments have men, so they are all chairmen. We would expect that the government will not just empower them, we ensure that what is due to them as regards to their security votes should be given to them, so they can be held accountable for not implementing, enough security. The traditional rulers are also under the local government administration, and of course, we expect that these kind of meetings, if they continue, they can build more trust, and then there'll be more synergy within the state apparatus and also among the security agencies as well. One thing that has always failed us in this country is the harmony within security agencies, the interagency collaborations that always fail us when it comes to dealing with terrorists and invaders of this kind. You see the police and the DSS and sometimes even the army are expected to work together. Everybody is working in silos. But I know that having heard from the Chief of Army Staff this time around, he seemed to have a clear mind of what he wants to do and who he needs in the room. I see him making statements that gives hope and gives us the impression that he is on top of his game. And we just pray that in the nearest possible time, I wish that the security situation in Benue should be declared as an emergency and all hands should be on deck to ensure that we've sorted this out once and for all, and Benue comes back to her true name of the food basket of the Federation, because the way things are going now, it is looking very, very dicey if Benue can even feed herself in the nearest years, because a lot of farmlands have been taken over by these invaders, and they have not just only occupied those places, they have stopped people from having access to their farmlands.
All right, and you also mentioned about women and it's the impact of this situation on women. Now, can you shed more light on how these incidents affect women and children currently in the States?
In fact, since I was born, apart from in 2016, where there was an attack in Guma and a pregnant woman was torn with a knife and the baby was brought out and placed on her chest. This was the first time I saw children being murdered in cold blood, burnt into ashes. It shows the inhumanity of man to another man. Women have lost children. Some of them have lost children, all their kids. A woman lost all her children and her mother in this crisis. Apart from the fact that they are left with the trauma, they require post-traumatic, some kind of rehabilitation. They also have lost livelihood. They also have lost self-esteem. You and I know that a woman is more comfortable in her abode where she can navigate and have her things done the way she wants them to do, arrange her schedules and her home the way she wants it to be. Now, these women are displaced, compacted into an IDP camp where there is no privacy, there is no dignity. Then, most especially, talking about sanitation and menstrual hygiene. If you're thinking about even the young women and older women who are in that IDP camps. A lot happen in IDP camps. I don't even want to, start going into the issues that happen in the statutory IDP camps where we work, with these women. We see a lot of, things happen to women as gender-based violence and, so they are so exposed. The women have become so vulnerable in this situation. Benue women are very strong women, very tenacious women. So even within these camps, they try to put themselves together into clusters. You know, some of them go out to work on people's farms to earn a living, just to ensure that they are not totally, wasting away. And they are also still looking for a way to earn a living. So I see this opportunity to call on development partners who want to work with women on the move, to come down to Benue. These women are women who can be put together into clusters so they can maybe learn new skills, adaptive skills that can help them beyond this crisis. That would also serve as a sustainable survival skill for them as as Nigerians and as individuals.
All right, but what are the women, what are the women doing, among themselves to advocate for this issue, for the cessation of this terror and this massacre and killings in the states? Are they doing anything?
Many women have always spoken against this. There have always been protests. The little that they can do, as I said earlier, especially when it comes to non-kinetic mechanisms of conflict reconciliations, women are expected to be in the room. Women are expected to be part of these conversations. We are mothers, and we know exactly how it feels. Most of these people, when they come in, they kill our husbands, they kill our sons. Sometimes they even rape our women and our daughters. And so we know what it is. So, and if you bring women to the room, you hear their issues around this crisis. You may also have, the right strategies to come up with, to be able to bring this crisis to an end. Benue women have had protests. If you check, you will see they have had meetings with the leadership. They have also advocated. We have a lot of young women and women in Benue State who have been, agitating and asking, government to stand up to her responsibility to ensure that this crisis has come to an end. So there's little or nothing that we can do on the sideline, aside ensuring that we give our lending hand with regards to humanitarian support to the women at the camps. Being in the room, doing the technical aspects of this crisis, Benue women have not been given that opportunity. Sure, and I think now we have a woman at the helm of affairs for the Benue Peace Commission. Even at that, I don't think that her office is properly utilized to ensure that we put this to rest. I want to appeal, that Benue should consider having more women in the space to ensure that some of these issues are discussed amicably, and then everyone is being considered, everyone's issues are being seen to. I won't stop until I say that any society that does not include women, the population that is over 50% of their population in decision-making and policies, the society is bound to make a lot of mistakes because women are critical. I keep emphasizing they are very critical. They are found everywhere, and they are very important because their life is a critical aspect of the society. So if you exclude women, you are excluding a critical mass. Their ideas, their visibility, their presence is important in everything that we do. I want to also encourage us, Benue women, not to get tired. I know that the humanitarian crisis at the camps are very, very intense. My organization, the Benue chapter of the League of Women Voters, are also putting their house together to pay the camps a visit sometime next week. And I hope that everyone will support them and ensure that these visits at least creates a little impact to the situation at the camp.
All right, now you are the President League of Women Voters in Nigeria. Now, do you think that what is happening now can affect women voting, or rather the women's voting pattern in Benue State in the next elections?
Absolutely, it has always affected. If you look at the voter apathy, if you look at the voter apathy that happened in 2023, you would agree with me that this crisis has uh, affected a lot of, the voting population, the female voting population in Benue, not just the female, the voting population in Benue. And sometimes I want to believe, the the theory that this crisis is another way of trying to disperse the voting strength of the North Central of Nigeria, because the North Central of Nigeria is usually a battlefield, at every election. Once you get the Southwest, you get the Northwest, you come to the North Central and battle and get two states, because usually the North Central never votes in one pattern. You see Benue voting a different party, you see Plateau voting a different party, Nasarawa voting a different party, because we are strong-willed people who know what we want, and most of the time we try to vote according to our conscience. And so North Central is usually a battlefield. So sometimes I want to believe that it's politically initiated sometimes to see that they disperse our votes, because a lot of people who are in IDP camps either lose their voters card while they are running from this crisis, either cannot vote because most of when we agitated for IDP voting in Benue, we got to a point where all we could get was that the voters cannot vote in the IDP camp, but they can always go back to their communities and vote under tight security in a cluster voting. So you don't go to polling units. They take all the polling units to one center, maybe in a primary school within their communities, and label the polling units there, and they all vote there. How many people would have the courage to go back to a community where they were being chased away by armed herdsmen to come and vote? So it has caused a lot of voter apathy. And I think 2027 will even be worse if this is not dealt with decisively, right on time. This is getting beyond, what anybody can bear now. It has gotten to a point where every Benue indigene should be unhappy, should get to the breaking point of taking action.
All right, and you also mentioned earlier on about the underrepresentation of women, in the state's governance structure. Now, what would you say is the reason behind this, and how can more women be encouraged to, come out and be more involved?
Okay, what would I say is the reason of underrepresentation? And I don't want to be indicative here. I would say that the underrepresentation in Benue right now is very, very, very obvious. And of course, the governor, Reverend Dr. Hyacinth Alia, has done his best, but I keep saying his best is not enough. Because at the beginning of his administration, my organization had a meeting with all CSOs in Benue, and we paid him an advocacy visit, pleading that he should create an office of the advisor on gender, because he is a reverend father and he has no first lady. That office would now be institutional, and even if subsequently there's a first lady, the office could run, distinctively, to ensure that there's sustainability and there's a rallying point for Benue women. I don't blame leaders who don't include women, especially when they come. Our society is quite a patriarchal society, and men go to the table to have conversation without thinking about women, except if there's a woman in the room who will continue to reiterate that we need more women in this space, right? So do we have such a voice in Benue? We don't. I don't think so. Not now. He has tried to appoint certain heads of MDAs, and of course, the first ever Benue SSG, female SSG, was appointed by him. But he thinks that does not translate to the 35% that was enshrined by the Benue State House of Assembly, because the affirmative action was domesticated by the Benue State House of Assembly. And what we have now is abysmal if you compare it to what 35% means. The 23 local governments all have male chairmen, and we just have a few, in the space. Yes, we have the deputy speaker, who is a woman as well, Honorable Laminda Ladi, who is also a leader. I would say a lot still needs to be done. And strategically, I keep saying that when you want to have an inclusive government, you have to deliberate. You have to do something that is intentional, and you will do it in a way that someone will know that, yes, you are not doing it because you just have to do it. You are doing it because you know that it is something right to do, and it is right to do it for posterity and for development. Setting aside certain local governments for female chairmen would just be the best options for Benue. You could say out of the 23 local governments, you set aside 10 that will be contested and voted by only women. Or you could make the twinning method, which most states in Nigeria now, are adopting. If the chairman is a woman, the deputy is a man. If the chairman is a man, the deputy is a woman. That way, it shows intentionality in your inclusive, agenda. Secondly, I would want to also encourage the governor to continue to dialogue with women. I have not seen any Benue State women dialogue with the governor. I know that that would have been an oversight, but it's an opportunity for him to listen to the voice of Benue women. Let him sit in the room with the Benue women and listen to them. I'm not saying that he is not a woman-friendly governor, but he should look at issues of women. Since he doesn't have a wife, if he had a wife, if he wasn't a priest, the wife would relate with Benue women and maybe whisper to him issues of women. And I'm using this opportunity to make a call, for the Benue Woman Town Hall with the governor of Benue State. It's high time he listens to the women in Benue State. They may not have access to him, but I think there's a lot of grumbling that women are not having access to governance, and women want to, be seen in the space or be recognized. A lot of women voted for him. In fact, I think his highest voters were women. And if now women are saying they are not having access to him, they are not having access to good governance through his leadership, then it is high time for him to sit in a room with Benue women and listen to their own issues, and then see how he can, bring them to the tables where his policies and his decisions are being taken.
All right, now let's look at the situation in the IDP camps. What, in your assessment, what would you say is the situation, especially when it comes to catering to the needs of women, children, and vulnerable groups?
Well, you see, the situation, the way the IDP camps work, when now the camp is just trying to settle in, until when the proper data is taken according to households and the numbers are given, you could be able to ascertain how the camps will run. But for now, these people are just displaced people put together in one place, And I mentioned earlier that there was a hunger protest in that camp, I think yesterday or day before yesterday, where the women basically were singing and shouting and crying for hunger. Their issues are very delicate, right? Like I said, the Commissioner of Women Affairs would have been in the best position to stand up to that responsibility and see how women will be taken care of. In specific terms, our issues can only be understood by us and dealt with by us. You understand? So the situation now is that the women are not being taken care of. That is the simple and short of it. Apart from what humanitarian bodies, the churches are coming to donate so far, There are no specific things that relates to women that are being, targeted at them directly. What I see people donating there now, food items, beddings, and so on. But women issues are beyond just food items and beddings. And also know that in the long run, or even now, what another thing that is needed in that camp is psychosocial support. It's very important. When people start getting agitated, impatient, and start protesting, you know that there's really something eating them deep in there. And so psychosocial support is another thing that I suggest. And I also call on the Ministry of Women Affairs to please go to that camp and see what she can do for the women in specific terms, the women and children. There are newborn babies in that camp already because pregnant women ran away, while they were pregnant, and some of them have delivered in that camp. And that's why I decried a humanitarian crisis in that camp. Before we start hearing of other unfortunate incidences in that camp should be manned not just by civil society organizations in Benue who are already doing wonderful. I commend them for their benevolence and their call to duty, which they have always done. I'm proud of them, and I'll continue to pray for them and support them in whichever way I can.
All right, and also, still on the killings, many people are of the opinion that the state government did not do much, or rather, did not do the necessary things to, avert these attacks and the killings. So, what do you think about that?
Well, I'm not a security expert, but I must say that I have been in the fourth run of agitating against this killing when I convened Vanguard against Steve Masakavatim in 2015. And a lot of agitation, negotiations, and even protests. We had protests, we had public hearings in National Assembly. We also had meetings even with the then Senate President, Bukola Saraki. And we also had this bill that was passed into law by the last administration. At the opening of my conversation here, I talked about that bill. I think that that bill needs to be dusted wherever it has been kept and looked into. It is beyond after, because post the security situations, the security people will do their job, and when they leave, we need to look at that bill. It said that law should be implemented from the book cover to the last page. If that law is properly implemented, a lot of this crisis will be brought to the barest minimum. That is the aspect where I will call out the governor, because I did not see him, really holding onto that law prominently, and then emphasizing that that law, should be one of his. He has never spoken to the law. That's the word I will use. He has never spoken to the law. He should be able to use that law as a tool to ensure that he rescues Benue from these masqueraded Fulani headers. Because first and foremost, when that law was enacted, they came to attack Benue to show their disapproval of that law. They went on air, they made press statements, they said they were still going to have open grazing in Benue in spite of that law. But there's nobody who is above the law in Nigeria. And there's no law anywhere that says that if you have the animals should have freedom of movement. We talk about human beings having freedom of movement, not animals. And globally, ranches are the best practices of animal railing cattle, and it gives you better economic power and value for your cattle. So I think that that law is what the government should resurrect wherever it is, hold on to it, implement it in every aspect of it. I don't want to start mentioning all the aspects of the law, but I know that some aspects, was implemented in the last administration, but the bulk of the law was left unimplemented. And then this is another opportunity also to engage civil society organizations that put together that law for the Benue State government. Those who put together that law are still in the space, still working really hard, doing other things to ensure that these crises are brought to barest minimum. The MAFO group, the VATIM group, and then several other legal practitioners in Benue who even took it upon themselves to go into court to ensure that they got justice for the Benue people. So they are still in the space. Convey them, and let's sit on the round table and look at how you can come up with a implementation framework for that law. That way, it is easier to understand what aspects and who should implement what and at what point.
All right, and now still on the president's visit, when he arrived at the state, a public holiday was declared. Children, people came out on the streets, to welcome him. And some people are of the opinion that, it was turned to some form of political jamboree, or kind of like a state visit, something that was supposed to be a condolence or a more solemn visit. Now, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, personally, from my own position, that was very unfortunate. I was embarrassed as an individual, and as a Benue citizen, I was embarrassed to see, those videos flying on social media. But I also know that I'm a Benue indigenous, and I know my people. I know that there is a lot of sycophancy in the space. There's a lot of overzealousness in the space. I don't want to defend the governor, but I want for him to show the Nigerians that he didn't okay this kind of display of, I don't know what it means. He should call the educational institutional heads, and they should be sanctioned for this. This is quite embarrassing. The Commissioner of Education should be sanctioned for this. On a public holiday where children were meant to be at home, they were brought into the open place under the rain waiting for the governor. This was not a state visit. This was a condolence visit to the people of Benue. And I was embarrassed when I saw it, but I don't want to heap the blame on the governor, but he has a responsibility to come out openly and say, because this was done without my approval, this is what I have asked the Commissioner of Education to do, or I have suspended him, or I have queried him, or something decisively has to be done, openly, to show that he didn't okay such, a very, I don't know what to describe this kind of show of shame, in the broad daylight, for everyone in Nigeria that is sympathizing with us at this moment would now turn and say these people are really not serious people. And to say that before this visit, a lot of well-meaning Benue indigenous came out to advise against such incidents. It is because already they know the kind of people we have in Benue, people, sycophants who just go about singing praises and trying to beef up, show situation. I don't know what they stand to gain, from all of that. And well, every good leader should know that not everybody around you, would want to tell you the truth in your face. Only people who love you will tell you the truth in your face. But that's one thing that lacks in Benue, and that's why they are always fighting, their leaders left, right, and center, because by the time they tell a leader lies, when the leader realizes that they are lying, and they start facing reality, they start turning against their leaders. So I think that the governor has the responsibility to come out openly and sanction whoever okayed that nonsense that gave Benue a very bad light at a point where everybody is sympathizing with us. It was a no-no for me. I felt very embarrassed as a citizen of Benue, and as a mother, I don't think if my own child was in that street that I won't be in court with the commissioner at this point.
All right, thank you so much for your time and your insights in this conversation, Mrs. Irene Awunah. She's an activist, development consultant, and the president, League of Women Voters Nigeria. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me. God bless you, and God bless Nigeria. And may God bring peace and hope back to Benue State. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Save Nature TV